Hello, Mr. Jason Fowles, and welcome to النهار العربي.
Thank you.
First, we see that the big companies of social media, they change on regular basis their strategies, their regulations. How this may affect the content creation?
Sure. Well, the thing that people need to remember is that the social media networks are going to change their policies from time to time, but almost always it's in order to drive people to stay on that social network longer. And what that ultimately means is, as a content creator or as a brand creating content, if you can create content that is compelling, that people want to watch, that people want to interact with, the policies are not going to hurt you probably. They're probably going to favor you. So staying...
How are they going to
Well, because if you're creating content that's compelling, the social networks want to prioritize that content to their users, because that makes the experience one that people don't leave. They stay on that social network. That's why we've seen TikTok grow so quickly over the last few years, is because they created a different algorithm that prioritized content that the user was responding to more frequently, not just who they follow. It's really what types of content they like, what types of content, comedy or drama that they like. And so TikTok has jumped ahead of everyone because they've made the experience on TikTok more compelling for consumers. So if you as a brand or a content creator are staying ahead of creating compelling content, then the changes are only going to favor you. They're not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm. Great. There's a famous question always. Is there a smart plan that we can adopt to increase the number of followers?
So the number of followers, there's a lot of things.
Organic one.
Right. There's a lot of things you can do. But I again go back to your content creation as the key. If you can figure out a type of content to create that reaches the type of audience that you want to have, and make that content compelling and be consistent with it, then you're going to grow your followers. Now, there's little tricks of the trade of make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you like and follow us on social media, reminding people to do so. But if your content is good, people will follow you. That follower count will grow. What you've got to figure out is what type of content can you create that most people think is good, or that the audience you're trying to reach is good. And it might be that it has humor, it might be that it has drama, it might be that it's high action and lots of editing, or it might be that it's just your personality as a content creator. But find what works, look at your posts and see what's getting engagement, what's getting the likes, what's getting follows and shares, and do more of that so that you figure out what your formula is. Everybody's content formula will be different. My content is going to appeal to a very different consumer and different audience than yours. But once you figure out what works for the type of audience you're trying to reach, keep doing that.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe some people may think that this is about the philosophy of social media. Is this word a free word?
Wow, that's a big question.
It is.
I like to think for the most part it is, but there are always going to be guardrails, parameters that we have to stay within. Whether it's following the terms and service of a site like TikTok or Instagram, we're not truly free because there are certain things we can't post, right?
What do you think about these standards?
You know, it's I hate to see if every social network were truly open and truly free, I shudder to think what we would see, because as much as we hate to admit it, there's a lot of ignorance in the world, there's a lot of hate in the world, and having those truly free open networks gives those perspectives a path to reach more people. Not that I want to be the judge and jury of limiting anyone's speech, but at the same time, there has to be some measure of diplomacy, some measure of ethics and morals that are at play in a society. Now, it might vary from country to country, from region to region. What's open and free and allowed in the United States might be very different than what's allowed in the UAE or other countries like that. So I think there can be fluctuations from country to country and region to region. But I feel like we have to have some level of guardrails and parameters. Otherwise, we open up a Pandora's box of a lot of negative things that could be out there.
It's important that these ethics follow one standard and not double standards. Some people
I think
so.
I definitely feel like there needs to be some sort of global agreement as to what's good and what's bad, which is hard to come by because obviously
it's very hard.
Our world is full of people who don't agree with things. But I think there are ways that we could have those conversations, and that we as a global community could sort of come to an agreement on, okay, there's certain things that we don't want to tolerate. Maybe hate speech is one of them. Maybe defining hate speech is a gray area as well. But I do think we have the ability as a society to come together as one to say, here's what's acceptable and here's what's not. I personally don't want to be the judge of that. I don't think any one person should be. But I think we can discuss, have these conversations, and come to some form of agreement on what's good and what maybe not is not.
Last, it's a marketing question.
Okay.
What do you think about the way the companies today engage the influencers in the marketing issue?
Well, I think the biggest problem I've seen with brands who engage influencers is they are still thinking sort of the old way of thinking of, I'm going to pay you to post about my product, which is fine, but it's not very creative and it's not very effective anymore. So what I try to encourage brands to do is think about longer term relationships with the content creators that you like, because you can develop a much stronger relationship with their audience if they are consistently going back to that audience and talking to them about your product or service. But also, brands can think about using content creators for events. They can use them as creative directors for their marketing campaigns, because those content creators know how to create compelling content on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. So use them for their expertise, not just the fact that they can post something on their channels.
Jason Fowles, thank you for joining النهار العربي.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.